There are four kinds of business that are defined by the margin and the volume. Margin, again, is difference between how much you are selling, your price, and your cost. And then volume is how many transactions are you doing?
The turnover.
The turnover. When you combine these two, you get four types of businesses. The first kind of business is what I call a graveyard business. It is a business where you have low margin.
You have to go slowly now.
Yes.
If you haven't picked your pen and paper, you should, so that you can put some of these things down.
So if your business is low margin and low volume, it's a graveyard business because you're not making much per transaction and you're not making a lot of transactions. The only way you would have caught up is if your margin is small and you're making a lot of transactions. Then that's a different kind of business. But many businesses fall into I want to sell a product that is booming, that is selling. That's what draws them in. But if you look at any product that is really selling, they are typically low margin. Water, anything, most kinds of food, raw food, provisions, all of them are low margin, very low margin. That's why remind me to talk about it, the difference between the supermarkets that succeed and the ones that fail. Because typically supermarkets are low margin businesses. They hope to make money on the volume. So that's why you see things like fast moving consumer goods, bread, milk, chocolate drinks, toothpaste. All those things are very small margins. That's what you sell. The problem is that when you start a business newly and you are in the low margin business, your goal is to grow your volume as quickly as possible. If not, that business will crash because you are in the graveyard zone of the business landscape. You are low margin and you are low volume. That is a terrible place to be as a business for very long. If you do not get out of that place within your first year of business, you will likely not remain in business. And businesses that are able to still thrive, that are low margin and low volume, the only reason they take off is that they get money from outside. They get investor money or there's somebody pumping money into the business. Typically, a low margin business, low volume, is spending more than he makes. And that business is destined to die. That's why it's called a low margin business. That's why it's called a graveyard business. The next zone is the mass market, which is low margin, high volume. That's where the airlines make money. Per passenger, they are making a small margin. But because airlines they try to fill up the plane. They always try to fill up the plane. That's where a flight becomes profitable. They make money on volume. You go to any supermarket, anybody that is selling bread, they don't make money on one loaf of bread. They make money on volume. So if you are in a low margin business, our favorite, pure water, the one we discussed, what kills pure water businesses is that they are low margin by nature. But when you start a new pure water business and you're trying to penetrate the market, your volume is low. And the longer you stay there, the more likely it is that you die. Any pure water business that is succeeding is winning on volume. You will likely see them everywhere. Maybe they dominate the whole Oshodi or the whole Yaba or something like that. They make money on volume. Even the Coca-Cola and the Pepsi, the bottled drinks that we talk about, they are low margin. But where they make their money is they pump volume. Everybody is drinking Coke, everybody drinking Pepsi. You make money on volume. So it's either you are mass market or you are in the graveyard. That's the problem with low margin businesses. So what this tells me is that if you have several business ideas, what this question is asking you, of all these your business ideas, which ones are low margin and which ones are high margin? Right? So now we've talked about graveyard businesses, we've talked about mass market. Excuse me. The third type of business is high margin, low volume. This is my space. That's where I like. It's a boutique. That's what they call. So high margin, low volume. You don't make a lot of transactions. You don't have a lot of customers. But for every transaction, the margin is high. And if you would ask me to put a number on it, any margin, gross margin that is below 30%, I consider it low. Any margin that is higher than 50, 60, 70%, that's a high margin.